today we're working on lesson 29. We're working a little bit more on word problems. So same stuff as yesterday, just a very different look to them. A couple of things that are super important, otherwise known as critical. When you're making an equation, it says you have two parameters. Yes, we do. Sometimes they give us a total, but in this case, we're not going to get that. So we have the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope tells us how fast stuff is changing. That's like the moving number, the moving or changing number. I gotta make this, there we go, a little bit better. The y-intercept, the b, tells us the beginning number. And that hasn't changed from the last lesson. We just have to look at it through a different lens now. So in exercise number 1, Janina has $450 in her savings account at the beginning of the year. So there's our B number because it says beginning. She places money in the account at a rate, well, we know slope is a rate, of $5 per week. We want to model the amount of money she has in savings, S, as a function of the number of weeks she has been saving, W. So for part A, they want us to fill out a table, which is fine. We can do that. When I look at these problems, I automatically think y equals mx plus b, but I guess we'll get to that after. Let's do part A. So it says fill out the table below for some of the number of weeks. Show the calculations. So at 0 weeks, that's her starting. So she would just have $450. That's what she has at the beginning. And I guess if I had to do a calculation, I would say it's 450 plus 0, because she hasn't put anything else in. After 1 week, it's 450, and it's $5 a week, so we'd say plus 5. So that's 455. Now this one's tricky. We have 450, but we have 5 weeks. If it's $5 for every week, it would be $5 times 5 weeks, and you get 475. So for the last one, we have 450. Remember, it's $5, but this time we have 10 weeks. So when you put that in your calculator, you get 500. So if you look, let me see if I can put this in a different color. Here's our beginning number, here's our slope number, and then this is the number that's like the x. So I'm going to write my equation, y equals mx plus b. We know that m is 5, so I'm going to write y equals 5x. And the b, the beginning number, is 450. So they want us to use different letters. They want us to use S for savings and W for weeks. Now, weeks is a time. Any type of time is always an X. So instead of this X, I'm going to put a W. So 5W plus 450. And then whatever the other letter they give you goes for the Y. So S equals 5W plus 450. Now part C says if she saves for 1 year, how much money will she have? So this is time. And remember, time is in weeks. There are 52 weeks in a year. So I'm going to plug this into that equation. S equals 5 times 52 plus 450. And then you just put this into a calculator. It can even be a cell phone calculator, and you get 710. So she would have $710 if she puts in an extra $5 each week. We're going to do one more in this lesson. Same thing, we're still doing y equals mx plus b, but remember, different type of problem. So in this case, we do not have an m, and we do not have a b, but they got to give us something. So for exercise 2, Kirk is driving along a long road at a constant speed. He is driving directly towards Denver. He knows that after 2 hours, he is 272 miles from Denver. And then they give us another one. Let me use a different color for that guy. After oops, that's not a different color. Come on, purple. After 3.5 hours, he's 176 miles from Denver. This is the type of problem where they give us 2 points, 2 coordinate pairs. Remember, x is always time. So when we make a point, we have an x and a y point. This is always time. And then the y is whatever else they give you. So for my first one, 2 hours, 272 miles. So I'm going to make this point 2, 272. Oh, wait, this should go down here. 2, doesn't really matter. And then the other point is 3, 176. So then part B says write a linear equation. Okay, linear equation means y equals mx plus b. So we could do a whole lot of algebra to find the m and the b, but we know a better way. I should say a more efficient way. In this case, we're going to do stat edit, or stat enter, and then stat calc number 4. Now, I don't have a graphing calculator on my Chromebook, so I'm just going to put in the answer that I got when I use that. So I have y equals negative 64x plus 400. And they want us to use h for hours and d for distance. Now, I know time goes in the x spot, so negative 64h plus 400 equals, let's see, capital D. This right here, come on, I want to highlight you, is what we're going to use to answer the next 2 questions. D equals negative 64h plus 400. So part C says the slope of the line is negative. It's true, negative 64. Why does this make sense? Well, when he's driving towards Denver. So I would say Kirk's distance to Denver is decreasing. Now, using our algebra and arithmetic skills, we're going to find the average rate of change from the 2 points we found in part A. So that is 272, and, oops, 3.5, sorry, I wrote that point wrong, 3.5. 3.5, 176. My bad. You're probably like, what the heck is she doing? So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope formula, remember, because that's average rate of change, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Pause the video, try to do slope on your own and see if yours matches mine. 170. I'm going to run out of room with this one. Now up here it says to include units, so I'm going to do that. We know our x value, our x unit is hours. And the other one, the y, is miles. Okay? So now, in your calculator, alpha x, put that in your calculator, and you get negative 64 miles per hour. So in this case, slope is the same thing as your speed. So from now on, whenever you hear the word speed, you can think slope. Okay, last 2, again, we're going to use our equation from above, so I'm just going to rewrite it here. D equals negative 64h plus 400. Oh, and what the heck, I'll write it here again. Okay, so part C. How far did he start from Denver? So when you start, your time is 0. So I'm going to plug a 0 in for the hours. D equals negative 64 times 0 plus 400. So when you put that in your calculator, that cancels out. That's our y-intercept. That's our beginning number. So he started 400 miles from Denver. It's pretty far away. Now for the next one, after how many hours will Kirk arrive? So when he gets to Denver, he's actually 0 miles from Denver. So this time I'm going to put a 0 in for the D. And we're going to solve for the H. So think back to our solving equations practice. I'm going to subtract 400 on both sides. What am I doing? 400. 0 minus 400 is negative 400. Negative 64H. Divide by negative 64. So I have a little bit more room. So I get 6.25. So it took him about 6.25 hours, 6 hours and 15 minutes. That is a very long drive. So now what your job is to do is pages 18, 19, and 20, and do your best on those. Ask me questions if you have them.